Good evening. Good evening, and welcome to the Athenaeum Symposium. We want to welcome you, the faculty, the students, and the community members, and the staff. We're very excited about our speaker series this year, this spring, and Melanie very nicely gave you the flyers for this spring, so we hope you'll come to all the events. But of course, we have a very special event tonight with the Assistant Secretary of State, Robert Blake, whom we're just fortunate to have to speak with us. I'd like to mention to you why we call it the Athenaeum Symposium. And the reason we call it the Athenaeum Symposium is that Athens, of course, is the temple of Athena, the goddess of wisdom. And so hopefully, we're going to see lots of wisdom shared in our speaker series. We know tonight that Assistant Secretary of State Robert Blake will share wisdom with us. Symposia means intellectual discussions and groups of people gathering. And we're going to have, obviously, people here gathering tonight, but we're also going to have a question and answer period. So after Assistant Secretary of State Robert Blake gives his remarks, please feel free to come either down to this microphone or to that microphone to ask questions. You might want to even take notes while he's speaking if a question comes up. Be sure, though, to come down to the microphones. We would appreciate that. Tonight, we have a special introduction by Professor Jennifer Haydell. She's the star of our political science department, and we thought it was very appropriate for her to introduce Assistant Secretary of Robert Blake with all his credentials and all his caduceus. So, Professor Haydell.
Tonight, we're honored to learn more about the significance of South and Central Asia from Assistant Secretary of State Robert Blake, Jr. Assistant Secretary Blake is the ideal person to inform us about the challenges and opportunities in South and Central Asia today. He brings to us his extensive global and regional experience. Since May 2009, Assistant Secretary Blake has served as the Assistant Secretary for South and Central Asian Affairs in the U.S. State Department. In that role, he is responsible for overseeing U.S. foreign policy to a variety of countries, including, but not only, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, the Maldives, Bhutan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, and Tajikistan. From 2006 to mid-2009, Assistant Secretary Blake served as the U.S. Ambassador to Sri Lanka and the Maldives. From 2003 through 2006, he served as the Deputy Chief of Mission at the U.S. Mission in New Delhi, India. He also brings to us extensive global experience from outside of that region. As a Foreign Service officer, he served at American embassies in Tunisia, Algeria, Nigeria, and Egypt. He's also held a number of different positions within the State Department, including Senior Desk Officer for Turkey. Assistant Secretary Blake earned his bachelor's degree from Harvard College and his master's degree in international relations from Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. So please join me in welcoming Assistant Secretary Blake as he talks to us today about the role of South and Central Asia in a global society. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Jennifer, for that very kind introduction. Can you all hear me up there? Good. It's really a pleasure for me to be here tonight and to speak with all of you. I have about 20 minutes of prepared remarks, and then I'd really be glad to have a discussion, take questions, and really about anything you'd like to talk about. That was quite a lengthy list of countries there. But many of you probably are interested in Afghanistan and Pakistan and perhaps what's going on between India and Pakistan or any of those things, and I'd be glad to talk about those. The reason I was invited to come to Montgomery College, and the reason that I was really interested to come is that we're doing a lot with education in India, and your college has really been quite a pioneer, and working with my bureau, actually. We were just talking with Dr. Rai about this. And so I was curious to come and meet all of you and talk a little about all the things that's on your mind as well. So again, I really thank you for the opportunity. This is a really important time for me to be reviewing some of the efforts that the United States has undertaken to advance our interests in South and Central Asia. It's my belief, and it's my boss's belief, Secretary Clinton, that the best way that we can enhance our relations is by engaging with people in the region at all levels, engaging with their governments, engaging with their societies, engaging with their students, but also, very importantly, by engaging with institutions here in the United States that themselves are doing work overseas. So again, I really want to salute the work that Montgomery College is doing in India and probably elsewhere. More than ever, in an era when the ways Americans interact with the world have grown more intense and more extensive, and through so many new media, the success of our diplomacy requires the broadest possible interaction, not only between foreign ministries, but between societies. And that's why tonight I'd really like to focus on the role that the United States plays in the region and the connection that this has to global workforce development, to education initiatives, and international trade. All of the things that are, I think, directly relevant to Americans. And the way we deal with these issues is really, I think, a good illustration of how the United States and how the State Department is adapting to changed circumstances. So let me start with international trade. The current economic difficulties that our country is facing make trade and its importance very obvious to all of you. And I'm really happy to tell you that the State Department under Secretary Clinton has really made export promotion one of our very, very top priorities because from exports comes job promotion, and I'll give you some very concrete examples of that in a minute. In my region, there are all kinds of opportunities for U.S. companies to do more and to export more. Let me take probably the smallest country in the region, which is Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan's a little country of 5 million people, bordering the Caspian Sea, Iran, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan. A very small country, but many of you may not know that it also has the second largest gas reserves, natural gas reserves in the entire world. So Turkmenistan is actually quite an important place for the United States and of great interest to American companies. And very recently, Boeing signed a contract to sell 2 Boeing 777s, passenger airplanes, to Turkmenistan Airlines for $545 million. So that's a pretty hefty and important contract to a relatively small place, but again, a very concrete example of how there are a lot of business opportunities all over the world for the United States. Another company called the Harris Corporation has signed a $40 million contract to supply and install television equipment in Ashgabat, the capital's new television station there. So that's an example of a small country. Probably the largest and most important country in the region that I'm responsible for is India. India, as many of you know, is one of the fastest growing economies in the world and is on track to be the 3rd largest economy in the world by the year 2025, after the United States and China. And economic cooperation has really been a driving force behind our transformed bilateral relationship with India. President Obama has called that a defining partnership for the United States in the 21st century. And their economic growth has been a decisive factor behind India's increasing global influence and the growing responsibility that India is taking to help manage the international system. When President Obama and Secretary Clinton took office, one of their really top priorities was to figure out how to advance our already strong partnership between the United States and India. And they agreed to establish a strategic dialogue that would be chaired by Secretary Clinton and by her counterpart, the External Affairs Minister of India, S.M. Krishna. And the purpose of that was really to figure out how to broaden and deepen our partnership. And as a result of that, we've taken it into new areas like clean energy development, like preventing cyber attacks, and bringing new opportunities for higher education. And I'll come back to that in a minute. Currently, India is our 12th largest trading partner in the world. In 2009, goods and services trade between our two countries totaled $60 billion. A year later, it was up to $73 billion. And last year, at the end of 2011, it will probably be $90 billion. So it's rising at a very, very rapid rate at more than 20% a year, which is tremendous and provides, again, wonderful opportunities for American companies. There's already a huge range of American businesses doing business in India. They're there in part because they're very interested in the brain power of Indians. A very large proportion of the Fortune 500 companies of the United States have research and development operations in India. And they're also there because India is going to be one of the biggest markets in the world for the United States. Right now, India, as many of you know, has a population of about 1.1 billion people. They have a middle class of about 300 million people. That middle class is going to double over the next 20 years, and making it 600 million, which is roughly the size of the European Union right now. Over those next 20 years, the European Union size actually won't change very much. So India's buying power will come very close, just that middle class alone will come very close to that of the European Union in just 20 years. And it shows you how fast they're growing. There are a lot of wonderful examples of great things that are going on. Harley-Davidson, one of everybody's favorite companies in the United States, is building a plant now in India to assemble motorcycles. GE Transportation, based in Pennsylvania, is working with another American company based in La Grange, Illinois, called Electromotive Diesel. They have now, in the process of bidding on a contract that one of them will win, to supply the Indian Railways with 1,000 different diesel locomotives over the next 10 years. These two deals alone are helping to provide hundreds of jobs in the United States, but they're also helping to build strong connections between the people of our two countries. When President Obama made his landmark visit to India about a year and a half ago, he announced new trade transactions with a value of about $15 billion. And of that, $9.5 billion was export content directly from the United States. And those exports created roughly 53,000 American jobs. So again, shows you what a wonderful opportunity we have here in India. As important as the Indian market is, greater progress towards a more integrated South Asian market would open still more opportunities for U.S. companies and help provide new opportunities for the citizens of those countries as well. That's why we support the South Asian Free Trade Agreement, which is known as SAFTA. And we really believe that a fully implemented SAFTA would provide a strong, stable, and transparent framework for investment, and that it has the potential to foster much greater trade and opportunity, not just among the South Asian members, but throughout the region. And we also think that Americans would benefit from this widening opportunity, just as, of course, the people of the region will. The economic potential of a more open and integrated South Asia that is already home to 1/5 of the world's population is virtually unlimited. And that is the logic that underpins the vision that Secretary Clinton has laid out for what she has called the New Silk Road. That vision foresees linking the economies of South and Central Asia, along with those of the wider region, like China and like Russia, into a web of transport and energy and electricity connections. The New Silk Road, indeed, is a network of economic and transit connections that would run throughout Central and South Asia, with Afghanistan at its heart and with India as its real economic engine. As Secretary Clinton said in Chennai in southern India last July, the New Silk Road means upgrading the facilities at border crossings, such as that between India and Pakistan. It means removing the bureaucratic barriers and other impediments to the free flow of goods and people. And it means casting aside the outdated trade policies that many are still living with and adopting and adapting to the new rules of the 21st century. The idea is a very simple one. By actively promoting cross-border collaboration and trade and maximizing the use of existing transportation and energy infrastructure, Central and South Asia can once again become a bustling hub for global commerce. And that's exactly the vision that Prime Minister Singh and many of the other leaders of the region have. It's not unreasonable to imagine Tajik nuts moving south across Afghanistan to processing facilities in Pakistan or India, or Indian plastic goods heading north to Kazakhstan to its great green bazaar, or entrepreneurs in Chennai in southern India starting businesses in Bishkek and Kyrgyzstan, or Turkmen gas powering businesses in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. I want to emphasize that the entire region stands to benefit from expanded economic opportunity. And for this reason, we support initiatives that harness the collective strength of the New Silk Road. Recently, the Indian and Pakistani trade ministers, for the first time in 35 years, concluded in New Delhi and announced a path to further normalize trade relations between these two countries. They were joined by hundreds of Indian and Pakistani business leaders who attended the conference. And we really hope that through this kind of collaboration, the entire region is going to enjoy expanded trade and transit cooperation and see a real rise in living standards as a result. Other New Silk Road initiatives seek to supply energy from Central Asia to India and Pakistan, two markets with significant and growing electricity and energy needs. The proposed Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India gas pipeline would route natural gas from Turkmenistan right across Afghanistan and Pakistan to the markets of India and mostly to India. The CASA 1000 project would supply Pakistan and perhaps even eventually India with surplus summer electricity from Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. Infrastructure projects of this magnitude will fuel the development of new projects along the way and in turn create thousands of jobs and hopefully millions in revenues for these nations, but also create new opportunities for business. One of the real obstacles in places like Pakistan to doing business is that they have brownouts. They have periods of each day that sometimes are up to 17, 18 hours a day where there's no electricity. Obviously, it's really hard to do business when there's no electricity. So that's a real barrier to people investing in those countries. So if we can make sure that there's a reliable power supply in a place like Pakistan, it'll make a huge difference to those people, but also to the country's ability to attract new foreign investment. That regional vision is really taking hold, and we're really happy that a lot of our partners now in the region are really adopting this as their own. Secretary Clinton met today with the foreign minister of Kazakhstan, which is one of the most influential and important of the Central Asian states. And the minister talked a lot about how Kazakhstan is now developing a road network that will go from China through Kazakhstan and then up to the markets of Western Europe. And Kazakhstan sees itself as a great beneficiary of that, but that will also enable linkages from all the other Central Asian states and potentially Afghanistan as well. Another example, they're building a rail line from Kazakhstan that would go down through Turkmenistan to Afghanistan and eventually give Kazakhstan access to the Indian Ocean. so that they could export south through that region. For a landlocked country like Kazakhstan, that's a really, really important opportunity. The United States has also urged the countries of Central Asia to encourage regional investment and entrepreneurship, particularly among women. Through such collaboration on economic reforms and development, again, we think new markets will come about, and the end result will be greater opportunity for everyone. To give one example, we hosted the Central Asia and Afghanistan's Women's Economic Symposium last summer in Kyrgyzstan, which brought together women entrepreneurs from around Central Asia and also from Afghanistan. And we're now developing regional networks and training for these women so that they can create their own business, so that they can get access to microcredit, so they can create small and medium-sized enterprises and really begin to, again, catalyze new trade and new investment opportunities for their people. Let me talk a little bit about education. A critical component to ensuring that the young people of South and Central Asia will be able to find jobs in the 21st century is to ensure that they get the education that they need. And that is true across the region, but particularly in India. At last year's U.S.-India Higher Education Summit that my bureau put together, Secretary Clinton and the Minister for Human Resources Development, that is education, of India, a wonderful man by the name of Kapil Sibal, brought together universities from all over the United States, but also from India, to figure out how to chart a way forward to develop more partnerships. Minister Sibal told the audience that the present Indian, what he called gross enrollment ratio, that is the percentage of the population that is enrolled in higher education, is approximately 15% right now, 10% below the world average. He said that India's goal is to increase that to 30% by the year 2020, so to double it in just 10 years. That will require building 1,000 new universities and 50,000 new colleges, as well as training 1 million new faculty. We were talking about this beforehand, just to give you a sense of that. There are only 2,000 community colleges in all of the United States. So they're looking to build 25 times that in India over the next 10 or 20 years. A huge, huge task to do. They understand, India understands, that the only way they will ever be able to do that kind of thing is through foreign partnerships. And they're particularly interested in doing it with the United States because they know that we have the best system of higher education in the world. We have the best entrepreneurship and the best innovation. And so there's a wonderful opportunity for them to do more. Montgomery College, as all of you know, has already been a pioneer in developing a partnership with India that we really salute you for. And it's these kinds of partnerships that we're trying to really duplicate on a much grander scale. Investing in the education of our young people in both the United States and India is not an option, but really an imperative for both of our countries. It's the key to sustaining the competitiveness of our knowledge-based economies, to ensuring that our youth can lead productive lives and really seize the opportunities of the 21st century. And it will also help to sustain the people-to-people bonds between the United States and India that have really been a great driver of the partnership between our two countries. I'm also a big believer in international exchange programs that many of you might have the opportunity to participate in. In a global society like ours, international exchange programs are economically vital and culturally indispensable. It was an international scholarship program that 52 years ago brought President Obama's father to America to study at the University of Hawaii. And the U.S.-India partnership in higher education is another good example. It has a long and very storied history. The India Fulbright program was established in 1950 in a bilateral treaty that was signed by then Prime Minister Nehru. It has benefited more than 17,000 American and Indian students and nearly tripled in size since President Obama and Prime Minister Singh have taken office, because they thought it was such an important program. We also have a number of other exchange programs. We have a critical language fellowship program that teaches Hindi, Punjabi, and Indian global studies. We have other kinds of programs. We have something called Transforming Boundaries, which is a pilot project that helped here to connect faculty and staff at Montgomery College to those at vocational training institutions in India. And again, I think this is something that we're going to try to duplicate on a much more ambitious scale. The idea for this pilot was inspired by the governor of Haryana State, which is the state right next to the city of Delhi. The Haryana system, like that in many Indian states, is based on a very outdated model and really isn't closely linked to the needs of the local business community. And I think that's why they're particularly interested in the community college model that your college brings and that so many other community colleges around the country bring. So collaboration between Montgomery College, the Department of State, and Indian educators is helping to transform Haryana's polytechnic system. And Montgomery College will share its expertise in curricula, in geography, and learning environments, and help to train trainers who will in turn help to prepare India's population to compete and really prosper in the global economy. We're also seeking to try to dramatically increase the opportunities for American students to study overseas, particularly in India. We have a wonderful new program that we're calling the Passport to India. And that's an effort to try to promote internships for American high school and college students to go and spend time at universities in India. It's funded entirely by private companies, and it's an effort that encourages businesses to partner with American schools, colleges, foundations, and international organizations, and again, give students like all of you the opportunity to go either work for short-term internships overseas or to take internships at universities and colleges in India. We also hope eventually to provide more service opportunities as well, but that'll be sort of a second stage of what we're going to try to do. The United States has gained enormously from having Indian students here who have come to study and broadened the diversity of our universities and colleges. India now provides the second largest number of students in the world to American universities after China. 100,000 Indian students are now studying here in the United States, and we're very proud of that. They also contribute about $3.1 billion to the U.S. economy in various kinds of education and living expenses, which is also very important. So in closing, I just want to remind this audience of the great potential that exists in South and Central Asia. There's really an exciting opportunity now for dynamic economic growth that will bring greater opportunity for the people of South and Central Asia, and most importantly for us, for the people of the United States. The democracy, diversity, and creativity of people is driving progress in all of our nations. And all of our economies rely on innovation and a global knowledge base that will result from a deep commitment to education, rule of law, and the strengthening of the kind of partnerships that I described. And over the long run, it's our hope that millions of men and women who are now working on the next great product or scientific advancement or medical breakthrough will produce increased hope and security for our next generations. And that's the vision that we're working towards, and that's the vision that I think all of you can be proud of. Let me just conclude with a shameless pitch about the State Department and about the Foreign Service. As was said in my introduction, I went to SAIS and there were a lot of kind of people saying you should come work here and work there. I was actually the only person who went into government from my graduating class. And everybody at the time said, you know, are you crazy? Why are you going into government? You should go work at a bank or go do this or go do that. And I said, I don't want to do that. And I went to work for the State Department, and I didn't know if I was going to stay in or not. I didn't really know what it was going to turn out to be. But I found it's been absolutely fascinating. And the reason that I've stayed in is that it's been a truly wonderful opportunity both to serve our country, but also a truly wonderful opportunity to make a difference. And you have foreign service officers around the world who are doing a huge range of different things working at American embassies. Just to take a few examples of things that I did. I was working in Tunisia. I was a human rights officer. So my job was to go in and talk to the government and try to improve the human rights situation. I frequently raised individual cases of people that we thought were being tortured or otherwise mistreated, and probably by doing so saved their lives. Because somebody somewhere in a Ministry of Interior knew that we knew about what was happening to that person and therefore had an incentive not to mistreat them. We have economic officers around the world who are expanding business opportunities for our companies and helping to, when an American company goes to a place like India, a difficult place to do business, to tell them how to establish a business, how to develop partnerships, how to hire partners who can work with you to help navigate through the Indian bureaucracy and things like that. We also have economic officers who are there to help resolve problems. If you sign a contract and then you don't get paid, how do you try to fix that problem? And so there's a tremendous opportunity in that regard. If you're a student overseas, or if you're just a traveler overseas, and you happen to misfortune of if you get arrested, or if you lose your wallet or your passport, you go to an American embassy, and a young foreign service officer will be there to help you, to issue you a new passport, to give you some money, and to help get you on your way. God forbid you get arrested and get put in prison. Again, there's an international agreement that they have to tell the American embassy within 24 hours if somebody's been arrested. And we have to do the same here. And somebody from an embassy will come and see you and make sure you're okay, and make sure you have a lawyer, and make sure you're getting food and medicine, whatever else you might need. So there's a tremendous number of ways that you can contribute, that you can help your country, that you can serve your country, and you can make a difference to people's lives. And I think at the end of the day, that's what keeps us all going. We all feel like we're making a difference, and it's been a really terrific career. So those of you who are doing international studies, or not even international studies, you know, think about it. You can take the Foreign Service exam. There's no cost to it, and if you pass that, then there's an oral exam, and again, it's a really terrific opportunity for people. So I'll stop there. I've said a lot of different things, but I'd be glad to answer questions on really any subject that all of you are interested in, covering my region or Afghanistan or Pakistan. And again, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
My question goes to the industrialization of South and Central Asia, and your
To
opinion.
industrialization, did you say?
Yeah, the continued industrialization.
Yeah.
As they industrialize, it seems to me that our relations will improve because of the rationality that goes along with industrialization and the fact that maybe we could sell them a lot of cars, et cetera, et cetera. What I'd like from you is your thoughts. Where do you see our relationships, and as they industrialize, in terms of, you know, a sort of coordination between culture and philosophy and social relations, as well as trade, 50 years from now? And how would your speech be different if this was 100 years ago, 1912?
Well, first of all, on the industrialization side, India's path to prosperity has been very different from other countries. Normally, countries develop by first developing kind of labor-intensive manufacturing. That's what our industrial revolution was all about. That's what happened in England, places like that. And you develop textiles, footwear, things like that. So most of the rest of South Asia, that's what happens. Probably the back of my jacket and the back of most of yours, you'll have a little made in Bangladesh, made in Sri Lanka, made in, because a lot of what we buy now overseas is made in these countries. India actually, curiously, went quite a different route. First of all, they tried to kind of substitute a lot, and they didn't have export-oriented economies, so they had an import-substituting economy. So they really weren't prepared to compete with the outside world. So the area that they actually began to first prosper in the early kind of last 20 years or so was information technology. And one of the reasons they did that was because, frankly, the government couldn't really regulate information technology. They didn't know enough about information technology to even try to regulate. So it was a completely open field. And information technology, there was a real boom in that. And there were a lot of young educated Indians who were able to make a difference. And as a result of that, India developed, very unusually for at that time, a developing economy, a service economy, a service-based economy. Again, quite unusual. And it's only now, over the last 10 years, that they've gradually begun to industrialize and become really competitive in things like exporting cars and exporting pharmaceuticals and all kinds of other things. And they're sort of further behind China in that respect, but I'm sure they're going to catch up fast. And they've always been ahead of China because of their English ability and because, again, just very good engineers and other training that they receive. So to your question, I mean, industrialization is obviously going to help the country a lot, but I'm sure that the service economy and the innovation economy will continue to be an extremely important part of the Indian economy. And they're very keen to try to maintain their competitive edge on that. And I'm sure they will do so. I think you're going to see a balance. But the result will be that there will be tremendous lifting of standards. Right now, about 3/4 of India lives on less than $2 a day. Think about that. So very, very poor country in many respects. But what we're seeing now in global historical terms is the fastest transition of hundreds of millions of people leaving poverty in world history in India and China because of the incredible technology that they can benefit from now. And so historians are going to look back 100 years from now and they're going to say, wow, that was an amazing period. And it is an amazing period. It's hard sometimes to see these trends. But India, China, Bangladesh is another country that's seeing tremendous, tremendous growth. And when you have a country like India that's growing at 7 or 8% a year, living standards very quickly double. And that's what you're seeing in many parts of India now. And that's going to have a tremendous impact on this society. But it'll also mean a tremendous partner for us, because as the country develops, has more resources, it has more resources to begin to project its influence. And just in the last 10 years, India has really started to try to do that and has become a real global player. They want to be a member of the UN Security Council, a permanent member. The United States has endorsed that vision. They're increasingly working with us on nonproliferation, on climate change. We're talking to them today about a new UN Security Council resolution on Syria because of our concerns about what's going on there. So there's a tremendous amount of cooperation at the global level now that we're engaged on with India. And our bet is that that kind of cooperation is only going to continue and grow stronger over time because of their strong democratic values and because we have so many common interests. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes,
oh,
sorry.
Hi.
Didn't see you over there.
Hi, good evening. I'm Natalia. I'm at the engineering program here.
Hi.
I have an interest in renewable energy and also in the green economy.
Mm-hmm.
With all the growth that you have in the region that you oversee, will we also see an increase along with the economy increase and industrial increase? And like you were saying, all the pipelines, will there also be a green movement in the direction to make like renewable energy and things like that?
There will be. That's a great question. When President Obama came in, I think he here in the United States, he decided he really wanted to make a priority out of clean energy and again, developing and growing a clean economy. But he also wanted to do it in our foreign policy. And India has been a really good partner for us in that regard. Many of you may not know, but some of the really great innovations that are now taking place in clean energy are taking place in India. and in places like Germany and, of course, in the United States. So they are really a natural partner for us. And as a result of that, we, primarily the Department of Energy, has created with the Indian Department of Energy a $100 million partnership to fund new clean energy ideas. And so they are now receiving proposals from companies all over our two countries about how to do that. And the intellectual property for those things will be shared. And it is our hope and it's our bet that this is really going to produce some really important new innovations in our country that will help both of our countries. And it's a very good example of how government can use relatively small amounts of money to create what we hope will be very significant new opportunities, and more importantly, help to drive kind of innovation, which is going to be really, really important. The Indians are very interested in this because they are a country whose energy needs are growing exponentially, but unlike the United States, they don't have huge resources of their own. So they have to import a lot, and that's why they've been looking to do everything they can to get more nuclear power. That's why we have a civil nuclear initiative underway with the Indians. But it's also why they're very interested in doing more on clean energy. And if you go to parts of southern India, you'll see huge wind farms in many parts of the country. Same in the northern part of India. You see in many, many villages now, you'll see extensive use of solar power. So there's already a lot of really important work that's going on. And what's important for us is that innovations in a place like India can then be scaled up and used around the world. And I think that's another kind of benefit for us, because again, we know that India shares our values and that it also wants to, again, be a responsible member of the international community and will be willing to work with us to spread these technologies to other countries. So thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. I'm Atul Roy. I teach mathematics here.
Oh.
And Natalia was a very good example of kind of opportunities that we have. She already has a college degree, but she decided to pursue a totally different direction and is smoothly approaching graduation. So,
great.
So she's a good model here. Now, so now you touched commerce, you touched public relations, and
Right.
But let me ask you a question which is going in a very different direction, but it still comes under.
Please, no mathematical questions.
No math question. No. So just give you a hint, like